Today on Rappler, the Philippine government takes its maritime dispute with China to an international tribunal.
It takes two to tango.
Former U.S. Ambassador John Negroponte says taking the South China Sea dispute to UNCLOS may be futile.
Our journey is not complete until our gay brothers and sisters are treated like anyone else under the law.
And U.S. President Obama makes history by mentioning gay rights in his inauguration speech. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. The Philippine government announces Tuesday it will bring its territorial dispute with China to the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. The Foreign Affairs Department says the government will elevate the South China Sea maritime disputes to Annex 7 arbitration under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. Both the Philippines and China are signatories. In a press conference, Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario says the Philippines will ask the tribunal to declare China's claims invalid. He says China's 9-line claim is against the UNCLOS and is, quote, unlawful. China uses the 9-line to claim the South China Sea, including the Spratly Islands, also claimed by Brunei, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam. The DFA gives Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Ma Keqing, a note verbal regarding the Philippines' notification and state of claim in the West Philippine Sea. Del Rosario says the Philippines has exhausted almost all political and diplomatic avenues for a peaceful negotiated settlement of its maritime dispute with China. A senior official familiar with the plan says President Benigno Aquino was initially reluctant to take the dispute to the UN tribunal because he feared the government would lose in the arbitration. From the controversy over the Senate President's selective fund giving to coup threats, the arguments in the Senate continue. Ay Macaraig reports.
I'm way too old to be threatened by anyone, least of all by cowards and hypocrites.
A series of speeches marks the latest twist in the Senate saga involving Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile and his almost but not quite resignation. It's Senator Pia Cayetano's turn to take the podium a day after Enrile offers to resign over the Senate savings controversy, but 11 senators stop him. Breaking her silence, Cayetano asks why Enrile excluded her and 3 other critics from receiving 1.6 million pesos each in maintenance funds last December. The senator has a theory.
I cannot apologize for the stand I have taken on the RH and the sin tax laws. And if this is the price I have to pay to fight for the things I believe in, then I will accept the imputations that come with my job.
Even if she's on sick leave, Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago also accuses Enrile of grave abuse of discretion through a letter sent to the Commission on Audit. Enrile says she should just take him to court.
I would suggest to her that instead of just talking to the people without putting into action what she believes to be her truth, then she should take the necessary action.
The Senate President remains unfazed as another enemy, Senator Sonny Trillanes, continues to warn of a Senate coup. Other senators agree a coup is unlikely with only 7 session days left.
Parang nagiging wishful thinking na magkakaroon na ng kudeta. Wala naman lumalapit sa kanila.
Yun, Christmas gift yun. There's nothing wrong with that. Wala nga sa kalingkingan yun ng bonus ko sa Itbulaga. Tignan naman natin yung legislative work ng Senate. I think we are worth every centavo.
Still, Senate Minority Leader Alan Peter Cayetano has no plans of dropping the issue, calling for a private audit of Senate funds. Cayetano says the crux of the controversy has not yet been addressed.
For me, hindi issue yung leadership. Ang issue dito pa rin yung pera ng Senado na pera ng mamamayan.
Cayetano will deliver his response to Enrile's privileged speech on Wednesday.
What comes after the speeches? For Enrile's critics, the COA and the courts should step in. But the question is, what resolution will be reached in an issue that's not just about the law, but also power, politics, and ethics? Ay Makaraig, Rappler.
The Liberal Party goes head-to-head with the United Nationalist Alliance, or UNA, when its campaign ad airs late January. Candidates' no media ads can make or break their Senate bids. Carmela Fonbuena reports.
Action. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah.
We've seen the slate ads of Vice President Binay's United Nationalist Alliance, or UNA. Here we see President Aquino's senatorial candidates during the shoot of their first ad.
Okay. Quite relaxed compared to some of the other shoots, which medyo matagal. Ito quite fast, walang speaking parts. So it did not need our acting abilities.
I had fun, and a little exercise too.
The administration ad will air late January, 2 weeks before the official campaign period. They say they're not worried that UNA's ad has been airing for 2 weeks now.
Dapat lang naman mauna sila kasi una sila eh. Hindi naman unahan yan. Hindi pa nagsisimula ang kampanyahan. Para sa akin, boto pa rin sa araw ng eleksyon ang pinagbabasihan kung sino makakapasok at sino hindi.
One of the best performers was 74-year-old former Senator Jun Magsaysay, who finished his shoot in less than 30 minutes.
As long as there are no voice, whenever there are voices or voiceover for me, I have a little tension because I'm a man of few words. That's true. Engineer.
The last elections he joined was in 2001, a few months after the Philippine Congress lifted the ban on political advertising. It was the time when only a few politicians understood the new campaign tool. He returns to the campaign with an open mind, knowing how media have become the best way to reach voters. The same team behind President Aquino's ad in the 2010 presidential campaign is doing the commercial. Party bosses say it makes sense because they want to capitalize on the president's popularity to push for his candidates.
I feel honored because although I did most of Pinoy's campaign, so I guess it's a natural progression that the confidence is there.
But Reyes concedes the senatorial campaign is a totally different ballgame.
It's almost always difficult to sell 12 people successfully. So the idea is to actually develop a cohesive image for the 12 and then let the 12 actually speak for themselves.
That's the thing about senatorial campaigns. Candidates will end up fighting each other for the votes. Carmela Fonbuena, Rappler, Manila.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Manila John Negroponte shares his unique perspective on burning regional issues in Asia. Catherine Visconti reports.
Career American diplomat John Negroponte, a former U.S. ambassador to the Philippines and former Deputy Secretary of State, is in Manila. Negroponte points out the Philippines' decision to bring its territorial dispute with China to an international tribunal may be futile. He points out the tribunal only has authority over a sea dispute if both parties have agreed to have it decide the case.
It takes two to tango, but still, it sounds like an interesting and potentially positive development.
The former Philippine ambassador also says the U.S. Navy feels terrible about its minesweeper stuck in the Tubataha Reef, a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
It's very embarrassing, and obviously they didn't do it on purpose, and they certainly don't want to see it happen again.
He dismisses conspiracy theories the minesweeper was too high-tech to have miscalculated its position and was purposely in the reef.
I mean, why would the commander of a vessel
want to do this?
Basically, from a point of view of a career point of view, it's a suicidal thing to have happen.
He also says the U.S. will keep supporting Philippine interests. But he adds in this new century, America will ease out of playing the world's cop.
But not some kind of a abandonment or not some kind of an ostrich act. This is not putting our head in the sand. This is saying, let's go do this together.
His message is in line with Obama's inauguration speech.
Enduring security and lasting peace do not require perpetual war.
Obama says America will pursue strong alliances and manage crises abroad. Negroponte echoes what Secretary of State Hillary Clinton says. the U.S. will protect the Philippines as laid out in the Mutual Defense Treaty.
We're going to do what we can to help the Philippines defend itself, defend its interests.
He ends the interview by sharing what he thinks is the biggest security threat today: cyber wars.
I worry about cyber. And for the following reason, we've been seeing lately in the United States more and more of these different kinds of cyber attacks.
Catherine Visconti, Rappler, Manila.
Watch the full interview January 24th on Rappler.com's Talk Thursday at 10 a.m. A U.S. Navy publication says the U.S. minesweeper that ran aground on Tubataha Reef Natural Park has, quote, multiple spaces flooded on board. An article published by the Navy Times newsletter says weather conditions remain rough and the ship, once pointed straight into the reef with her bow hard aground, has swung broadside on where most of the starboard hull is in contact with the coral. At least 17 meters of the hull already penetrates the reef after the vessel turned 90 degrees due to the strong currents and winds. The newsletter says the digital mapping system misplaced the location of the reef by about 8 nautical miles and it, quote, may have been a significant factor that led to the crash. It says U.S. Navy ships are ordered to, quote, operate with caution when using similar electronic charts and compare the data with paper maps considered more accurate. Aerial surveys conducted by American aircraft indicate there are no fuel leaks, but, quote, the hull continues to be battered, particularly on the port side. U.S. President Barack Obama goes back to his campaign themes of equality and fairness as he starts his second term of office, casting himself as the enemy of budget cutters and defender of ordinary Americans. He talks about immigration reform and gun control.
Our journey is not complete until all our children, from the streets of Detroit to the hills of Appalachia to the quiet lanes of Newtown, know that they are cared for and cherished and always safe from harm. Our journey is not complete until we find a better way to welcome the striving, hopeful immigrants who still see America as a land of opportunity.
But the centerpiece of his inaugural promise is climate change. Obama failed to pass comprehensive legislation to reduce greenhouse gas emissions that cause global warming in his first term.
We will respond to the threat of climate change, knowing that the failure to do so would betray our children and future generations. Some may still deny the overwhelming judgment of science, but none can avoid the devastating impact of raging fires and crippling drought and more powerful storms. The path towards sustainable energy sources will be long and sometimes difficult. But America cannot resist this transition. We must lead it.
He also makes history by advocating gay rights, the first ever mention of the controversial issue in a high-profile speech.
Our journey is not complete until our gay brothers and sisters are treated like anyone else under the law. For if we are truly created equal, then surely the love we commit to one another must be equal as well.
Obama supported gay rights for most of his career, but did not endorse same-sex marriage. In May 2012, the president said he evolved his position on the issue, and he now personally supports gay marriage. Ceremonies also reflect the president's liberal views. A lesbian and gay band marches in the parade, and officials choose a gay poet to read at the celebration.